All right, so are you ready to unlock the power of your brain?
I hope so.
Today, we're diving deep, deep, deep into Limitless by Kwik. It's this book, kind of like the ultimate guide to upgrading your brain.
Yeah, and it's not just like theory. He actually gives you all these practical techniques to try.
So hopefully, by the end of this deep dive, you'll have some new tools, for boosting your learning and memory.
Definitely.
And honestly, even before, even starting the book, the endorsements alone are pretty impressive, right? I mean, we're talking Olympic athletes,
Oh, yeah.
best-selling
There's
authors,
major names.
big, big names like Lisa Nichols, even Peter Diamandis.
They're all saying Kwik's methods, they've made a real difference for them.
Wow, that's a lot of hype to live up to.
It is.
Kind of makes you wonder if he actually delivers.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I found really interesting is Kwik's personal story, right? He wasn't always a brain expert.
Right.
As a kid, he had this really serious brain injury. He was even labeled the boy with the broken brain.
Oh, wow.
That must have been tough.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't just shake off a label like that, right?
No, I mean, especially as a kid,
Makes you wonder if that's what pushed him, to study the brain so intensely.
Yeah, definitely. It seems like it became his driving force.
Mm-hmm.
Like his whole journey with this, it all kind of started when a mentor introduced him to the world of books
Okay.
and, different learning techniques. And then eventually he turned that passion
Yeah.
into a purpose,
Yeah.
like actually helping others unlock their learning potential.
That's pretty inspiring, turning a challenge into a mission.
It is.
Makes you wonder, though, what's holding you back from reaching your full potential? It's a good question. Kwik actually calls these obstacles supervillains,
Okay.
Things like digital distractions,
Right.
fixed mindsets, stuff like that.
Yeah. And those supervillains can lead to some really scary outcomes, He even talks about this thing called digital dementia, the idea that overusing technology can actually make our cognitive abilities decline.
Oh, wow.
Think about it. When was the last time you actually memorized a phone number? We're so reliant on our devices now that we might be forgetting how to use our own brains.
It's true. I don't even try to remember numbers anymore.
Yeah.
I just put it in my phone and,
But it is kind of unsettling.
It is. It's a little unsettling. What are we even losing,
Yeah.
We're not using our, full brain power.
Well, that's where Kwik gets into this incredible potential of the human brain.
Okay.
Specifically, this thing called neuroplasticity.
Okay. Neuroplasticity.
It's the brain's ability to adapt and change, throughout our lives.
So we're not just stuck with whatever mental capacity we're born with.
No, not at all.
That's encouraging.
We can actually, improve our cognitive abilities
Yeah.
through, learning and experience.
Yeah. So it's hopeful.
It is.
But then he talks about these 7 lies, right? These 7 lies that hold us back from, really tapping into that potential.
Yeah.
And some of them are pretty common beliefs, right? I'm just not a math person.
Oh, yeah, totally.
That idea that intelligence is fixed.
Right.
You're either born smart or you're not.
Mm-hmm.
But, Kwik argues that that's a fixed mindset, right?
Mhm.
And instead, we should embrace this thing called a growth mindset.
Okay.
The belief that our intelligence is malleable, it can be developed
Right.
through effort and learning.
So anyone can become a math person with the right approach.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Makes you think about all those limitations we put on ourselves, without even realizing it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And Kwik points out that intelligence isn't one size fits all.
Okay.
He talks about this theory, the theory of multiple intelligences
Okay.
by Howard Gardner. And it means that intelligence isn't just book smarts. There are different types of intelligence, linguistic, logical, mathematical, spatial, even things interpersonal intelligence,
Oh, okay.
the ability to understand and connect with other people.
So we can be intelligent in different ways.
Exactly.
It's about finding your own type of genius.
Exactly. And Kwik actually groups those into 4 categories: dynamo, blaze, tempo, and steel.
Dynamo, blaze, tempo, steel. Okay, so break those down for me.
Okay, so dynamo geniuses, those are the creative powerhouses. Think Shakespeare.
Okay, the creators.
Then there's blaze geniuses, like the master communicators.
Yeah.
Oprah Winfrey. Tempo geniuses are the visionaries. Think Nelson Mandela.
Big picture people.
Yeah. And then steel geniuses are the detail-oriented masters of, analysis.
Okay.
Like Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google.
Wow, so there really is a type of genius for everyone.
Yeah.
That's pretty empowering.
It is.
It is. But, okay, another lie that Kwik tackles is, the classic. We only use 10% of our brains.
Right. That one.
He completely debunks that myth,
Yeah.
citing experts who call it, like, almost laughable.
Yeah, it's a good one.
So we actually do have access to our entire brain's capacity.
We do. It's like we have this incredible supercomputer, but we don't know how to use it effectively.
So the potential is there, but how do we, tap into it?
Well, that's a big part of what the book is about.
Makes sense.
But one of the things Kwik says holds us back is, this belief that mistakes are failures.
Oh, yeah, totally. I'm very familiar with that one.
He challenges us to, reframe mistakes as learning opportunities.
Okay.
He even talks about how, Albert Einstein, who we often see as, this genius, right, made tons of mistakes throughout his career.
Yeah.
Lots of them.
It's like that saying, you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs, right?
Exactly.
Got to break some eggs to get to where you want to go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Kwik highlights Carol Dweck's work on, growth mindset versus fixed mindset.
Okay.
So people with a growth mindset, they actually see challenges as chances to, learn and improve.
Right.
And that makes them more, resilient and adaptable.
So instead of beating ourselves up over mistakes, we should see them as stepping stones.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah. He even shares the story of Nobel Prize winner Carol Greider,
Oh, wow.
who struggled with, dyslexia early on.
Oh, okay.
She felt, labeled and inadequate, but instead of letting it hold her back,
Yeah.
she developed, coping mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
And that ability to adapt, that actually ended up being, crucial in her scientific career.
It's amazing how, a perceived weakness can become a strength,
Right.
if you approach it with the right attitude.
That's Kwik's point.
I like it. Okay, so we've busted the myth about intelligence being fixed.
Yeah.
And the one about only using 10% of our brains. What's another, lie that Kwik calls out?
This one might hit home for some of you, the belief that learning is difficult.
Yeah. I feel like I've run into that one a few times.
And, sure, learning can be challenging,
Yeah.
especially if we're using, outdated methods, right? Or just ineffective methods.
Okay.
But Kwik argues that learning can also be fun and enjoyable when we find, the right approach.
Okay.
It's like having the right tool for the job, right?
Yeah.
If you're trying to, cut wood with a dull saw,
Oh, yeah.
it's going to be a lot harder than if you have a sharp one.
That's a good analogy. So it's not that learning is, inherently difficult,
No.
but we need to find the methods that work best for us.
Exactly. And he, dives into tons of practical techniques throughout the book.
Okay.
But first, he wants to address these, mindset blocks that stop us from, even getting started.
Makes sense, yeah. Let's keep busting these myths.
Yep.
What's next on Kwik's list?
Okay, this one might hit home for some of you. The belief that I'm too old to learn.
Oh, yeah. That old saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks.
Right? Exactly.
I've definitely heard that one before.
But Kwik firmly disagrees.
Okay.
He reminds us about neuroplasticity.
Mm-hmm.
The brain's incredible ability to rewire and adapt throughout life.
Mm-hmm.
It means learning is a lifelong endeavor.
Okay.
Our brains are capable of growth and change at any age.
So it's never too late to learn something new.
Never.
Wow, that's awesome.
He shares examples of people who have made incredible transformations later in life,
Mm-hmm.
proving that age is not a barrier
Okay.
to learning and growth.
That's encouraging.
Think about it. If our brains are constantly changing and adapting,
Mm.
why shouldn't we be able to learn new things regardless of our age?
That's true, yeah. It's like we're constantly evolving, just like our brains. What other lie does Kwik debunk?
He tackles a big one, the lie that the criticism of other people matters.
Oh, this is so relatable.
Yeah.
I think we've all felt that self-doubt, or worried about not being good enough in the eyes of others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So true.
It's like a common human experience. But Kwik says we should, free ourselves from that concern.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Well, he tells the story about the actor Jim Carrey,
Okay.
who talked about his, desire to free people from concern.
Okay.
The idea is that, we should focus on our own self-expression and not let other people's opinions dictate our actions.
It's like that quote, what other people think of me is none of my business.
Right, exactly.
And Kwik, he even shares part of Carrey's commencement speech,
Oh, wow.
where he urges graduates to embrace their individuality and not let, the opinions of others limit their potential.
That's great.
So it's about, like, finding validation from within, not seeking approval from others. Powerful message.
What's the last lie Kwik tackles?
Okay, this one's all about the myth of the born genius. You know, that idea that some people are just naturally gifted.
Yeah.
But Kwik, he challenges this with the story of Bruce Lee.
Bruce Lee, the martial arts legend. He wasn't just talented, though. He was, like, innovative.
Right.
And constantly pushing boundaries.
Yeah, he really was.
So was he not a born genius?
Well, his story actually shows that genius isn't about, like, innate talent alone.
Okay.
It's also about dedication and hard work.
So true.
Like, Bruce Lee wasn't a born martial arts master.
Yeah.
He actually struggled with, like, learning disabilities as a child.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And he faced a ton of obstacles.
Okay.
But it was his commitment to his craft, you know, his growth mindset that really helped him achieve extraordinary things.
So it's not about, like, being born a genius, but about, like, cultivating our abilities through effort and perseverance.
Exactly.
It's like the old saying, practice makes perfect.
And Kwik says we should challenge those limitations, you know,
Yeah.
the limitations we put on ourselves, and, like, embrace the possibility that we can achieve far more than we think.
I love that. So we've tackled these, like, 7 lies about learning, and it feels like we've already, removed some mental barriers. What's next in this, like, journey of unlocking our potential?
Well, Kwik says that once we address those limiting beliefs, the next step is to focus on motivation.
Motivation.
Yeah, it's one thing to have the potential, but we need the drive to actually tap into it.
Makes sense. It's not enough to just, like, know what to do. We need the motivation to actually do it.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Kwik breaks down the formula for motivation into 3 parts: purpose, energy, and small, simple steps. He actually calls it S3.
Okay, S3. I like that. So it's not just about forcing ourselves to do something we don't want to do, but, like, about finding our intrinsic motivations.
Right.
And making the journey, like, sustainable.
Exactly.
Okay.
He emphasizes that, like, a clear purpose. That's the driving force behind lasting motivation.
Okay.
He wants us to connect with our why, the deeper reason behind our desire to, like, learn and grow.
So it's not just about learning for the sake of learning, but about, like, connecting our learning to something that really matters to us.
Right.
I like that.
And he even suggests, like, thinking about your identity.
Okay.
How do you see yourself?
Mm-hmm.
If you see yourself as a lifelong learner, for example,
Okay.
you're more likely to embrace new challenges. And you're going to see learning as, like, an integral part of your life.
That's interesting. I've never thought about it that way before.
It's a cool way to, like, reframe it.
It is. It is.
And he also offers, like, practical tips for creating, like, sustainable motivation, like breaking down large goals to smaller steps.
Okay.
And celebrating small wins along the way.
Yeah.
It's about building momentum.
Right. Like, those small wins can fuel our motivation to keep going.
Exactly.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got purpose, we've got small steps. What about energy?
Oh, yeah. So another important part of Kwik's motivation formula is energy management. He points out that, our brains actually use a lot of energy.
That makes sense. Thinking and learning can be tiring.
Right, yeah.
Your brain does a lot of work.
Exactly. And Kwik stresses the importance of, like, giving our brains the fuel they need.
Okay, so how do we do that?
So that means good nutrition, getting enough sleep,
makes sense,
managing stress, and exercising regularly.
So taking care of our physical well-being is crucial for, like, optimal brain function.
Absolutely. It's all connected. And Kwik actually provides specific tips and techniques for, like, optimizing brain energy.
Okay, cool. So we've covered purpose, energy, and small steps.
Mm-hmm.
The S3 of Kwik's motivation formula.
Yep.
What else does he highlight?
Okay, so Kwik dives into this concept called flow state.
Flow state, okay.
It's a state of, like, optimal performance and motivation, where you're totally absorbed in a task,
Oh, yeah.
operating at your peak, and you even lose track of time.
Flow state. I've
Yeah.
definitely felt that before. Like, when I'm writing or working on, like, a creative project, and hours just fly by.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a state of, like, heightened creativity, productivity, and fulfillment.
Okay.
And Kwik actually provides, like, practical tips for entering this state, like, more consistently.
Oh, okay.
Things like, choosing challenging tasks,
Hmm.
minimizing distractions, and setting clear goals.
So it's about like creating the right conditions for flow to emerge.
Right, exactly. And he talks about the 4 stages of flow:
Okay.
struggle, release, flow, and consolidation.
Okay. So it's not all like rainbows and butterflies.
No, there's definitely some work involved.
That sense.
And he even cites Stephen Kotler's research on flow state, explaining that that initial struggle phase is actually like crucial for flow to even happen.
It makes me think about those times where, I've pushed myself outside of my comfort zone and experienced those breakthroughs.
Right.
It wasn't always easy, but the rewards were worth it.
Yeah, that's it. And Kwik stresses that flow isn't just about like feeling good.
Yeah,
Right?
yes.
It's about unlocking our full potential and achieving peak performance in any area of our lives.
So it's powerful stuff. Okay, so now I'm really curious about flow state. We've got purpose, we've got energy, small steps, flow state. What else is in this, like, formula for unlocking our potential?
Well, I think that's a great place to stop for today and pick up in part 2 with some more concrete methods.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll see you next time for more of this deep dive into Limitless.
All right, see you then.
Okay, so we're back, and we're diving right back into Jim Kwik's Limitless, picking up where we left off.
Ready for more brain-boosting techniques?
Always. We talked about mindset and motivation, but now it's time to get into, like, the actual methods.
Yeah, the nuts and bolts.
The tools we can use to really, like, make a difference in how we learn.
Exactly. And Kwik kicks it off with a skill that's, like, super fundamental to almost everything we do.
Okay, which is?
Reading. But he doesn't just talk about, regular reading. He dives into speed reading.
Oh, speed reading. I've always been kind of curious about that. But I always worry I wouldn't actually, like, remember what I read.
Right, right. Kwik addresses that concern head on. He says it's not about sacrificing comprehension for speed. It's about training your brain to process information more efficiently so you can actually retain more.
Okay, so it's not just about, like, skimming.
No, not at all. It's like, think of it as upgrading your brain's reading software, making it faster and more powerful.
I like that analogy. So how'd Kwik even get into this whole speed reading thing?
So he actually shares a story about his own struggles with reading. He used to be a really slow reader, but then he started like teaching himself these techniques and it was like a light bulb went off. There's even this moment he talks about in college where he was reading and understanding the material so much faster than his classmates, he actually burst out laughing in the middle of a lecture.
That's amazing. From struggling reader to, like, speed reading ninja?
Pretty much.
That's inspiring. Okay, so what are some of the techniques he used? Like, how do we do it?
Well, one really simple but surprisingly effective technique he talks about is using a visual pacer.
Okay, a visual pacer.
You just use your finger or a pen to guide your eyes across the page, setting a faster pace for your reading.
I've actually tried that before. It does seem to help with focus.
Right. And Kwik explains that this actually engages more of your brain in the reading process, stimulating both your left and right hemispheres.
Oh, okay.
Which can really boost your focus and comprehension.
So it's not just about, like, moving your finger faster.
No.
It's about, like, activating your brain more.
Exactly. You're engaging those neural pathways.
I like it. Any other speed reading tips?
He talks about eliminating subvocalization.
Subvocalization.
That little voice in your head that reads along with you.
Yeah.
And he also dives into expanding your perceptual span. So that's like how much text your eyes can take in at once.
So training your eyes and your brain to work together more efficiently.
Exactly. And he even gives you the science behind these techniques, backing them up with like research on how our eyes move while we read and how we can optimize those movements to, read faster and understand more.
See, this is what I love about Kwik. He doesn't just, like, throw out techniques. He explains the why behind them. It makes it feel less like, a magic trick and more like a science experiment you can actually replicate.
Exactly. And he even tells this story about Sarah, a young woman who really struggled with reading comprehension. But after learning Kwik's methods, she tripled her reading speed and fell in love with learning.
That's incredible. It really shows that we're not, like, stuck with whatever reading abilities we have now.
Right.
We can train our brains to become, like, faster, more efficient readers.
Absolutely. And the benefits go way beyond reading books. Like these techniques can help you process information faster in every area of your life, emails, articles, reports, you name it.
Just, like, upgrading your overall, like, information processing system.
Yeah.
You become a faster thinker.
Exactly.
I like that. Okay, so we've covered speed reading. What's next in Kwik's, like, brain-boosting toolkit?
So from speed reading, he moves on to another like really crucial skill, memory. He dives deep into how our brains actually work to encode, store, and retrieve information. And he busts a lot of myths along the way.
Okay, memory. That's something I've always wanted to like improve. Sometimes I feel like I have a sieve for a brain,
Oh, yeah.
especially when it comes to names and dates.
Well, you're not alone. It's a super common problem. But Kwik assures us that we're not, like, stuck with a bad memory. He says memory is a skill that can be trained, just like anything else. And he throws out that whole idea of, like, photographic memory. It's not about innate ability. It's about using the right techniques.
Techniques. Okay, I'm all ears. Let's hear them.
One of the coolest techniques he talks about is the memory palace or loci method. Have you heard of this one?
I've heard the name, but I'm not sure I really get how it works.
Okay, so basically it's about associating information with specific locations in a familiar environment, like your home. You create this mental map that helps you recall the information later.
Oh, okay. So, like, if I wanted to remember a grocery list, I could imagine each item in a different room of my house.
Exactly. Like, you could picture a carton of milk on your kitchen counter, a loaf of bread on your dining room table, a bag of apples in your living room. Quick explains that, like, our brains are really good at remembering places and locations.
Hmm.
So by linking information to those places, you create, like, stronger memories.
Okay, I kind of get it. It's actually pretty clever. I could see how that would make it easier to remember, like, a list. But what about things that are, like, harder to visualize, like concepts or abstract ideas?
Well, for that, Quick talks about the power of association. It's all about creating meaningful connections between different pieces of information, even if they seem unrelated at first.
Oh, okay. So instead of trying to, like, remember a bunch of random facts, I could find a way to link them together.
Exactly. And he says, like, the key is to make those connections vivid and engaging. Use imagery, emotions, even humor. Like, our brains are wired to remember things that stand out.
It's like those silly mnemonics we learned in school, right? They
Exactly.
were cheesy, but they worked.
Totally. He encourages us to get creative with it.
Okay, this is starting to make sense,
Yeah.
but I also know that, like, sometimes I just forget things because I wasn't really paying attention in the first place.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Quick talks about that, too. He says that most memory failures aren't because our brains can't hold the information. It's because we weren't, like, fully focused when we were trying to learn it in the first place.
Mm.
So he emphasizes the importance of, like, mindfulness and minimizing distractions when you're trying to absorb something new.
It's like if your phone's buzzing and you're, like, half watching TV, your brain's not going to prioritize remembering that lecture you're trying to listen to.
Exactly. And this advice applies to everything, not just, like, academic learning. Think about remembering names at a party or details from, like, a work meeting. If you're present and focused, you're way more likely to remember those things later.
So mindfulness isn't just about, like, feeling calm. It's about giving your brain the space to learn and remember.
That's a great way to put it. And Quick doesn't just offer individual techniques. He encourages you to develop a whole memory mindset, like
Yeah.
a belief that you can improve your memory and a willingness to, like, practice those techniques consistently.
It's like if you believe you have a bad memory, you're probably not even going to try to improve it, right?
Right.
But if you see it as a skill you can develop, you're more likely to put in the effort.
Exactly. And from memory, Quick moves on to something closely related, note-taking.
Oh, note-taking. I have notebooks full of scribbles that I can barely read later.
I hear ya. We've all been there. But Quick says, like, effective note-taking isn't about writing down everything. It's about, like, actively processing information and creating a system for recalling it later. He suggests starting by figuring out, like, your purpose for taking notes. Are you trying to, summarize a lecture, capture key concepts, create a study guide?
So it's about being intentional and strategic, not just passively scribbling away.
Exactly. And then he gives, like, different strategies for different scenarios.
Hmm.
For example, he suggests mind maps
Okay.
for capturing the relationships between ideas.
Mind maps are great for visual learners. I love how they let you see, like, the connections rather than just a long list of bullet points.
Right. And he also talks about using abbreviations and symbols to make your notes,
Yeah.
like, more efficient and
Okay.
leaving space for you to add insights or questions later.
So your notes become like this living document that you can keep building on.
Exactly. And he stresses the importance of using your own words when you're taking notes, rather than just, like, copying directly from a book or lecture. That makes you think about the material, more deeply and helps you remember it better.
It's like translating it into your own language. That makes so much sense.
Right. And he actually has this great tip for testing how effective your notes are. He suggests, like, trying to teach the material to someone else. after you've taken notes.
That's the Feynman techniques.
Yes.
I've heard about that. It forces you to, like, really understand the material if you can explain it to someone else.
Exactly. It helps you identify the gaps in your understanding and solidify your knowledge.
Okay, so we've covered speed reading, memory techniques, and note-taking. It feels like Kwik is giving us all these tools to become more like active learners, not just passive recipients of information.
You're right on track. He wants you to take charge of your learning. And that leads us to the next set of methods,
Okay.
thinking techniques.
Thinking techniques. Now, I'm really intrigued. This is an area where I'm always looking to, like, improve.
Well, Kwik offers some really cool tools here. One is Edward de Bono's 6 Thinking Hats.
6 thinking hats.
Yeah. It's about approaching a problem or challenge from 6 different perspectives, each represented by, like, a different colored hat.
6 different hats for thinking. Okay, I gotta hear more about this.
Okay, so the white hat is all about objective information gathering. Just the facts, no opinions or emotions.
So it's about taking a step back from your own biases.
Right.
And just looking at the situation, like, objectively.
Exactly. Then there's the yellow hat, which is
Mhm.
all about, like, optimism, looking for the benefits and opportunities.
So even if a situation seems challenging, you're looking for, like, the silver lining, the potential positives.
Right. The black hat is kind of the opposite. It's about being cautious, identifying risks,
Yeah.
playing devil's advocate.
So it's about challenging assumptions.
Yeah.
And not getting carried away by, like, optimism,
Right.
looking at the potential downsides.
Exactly. The red hat is all about emotions and intuition, acknowledging those gut feelings.
I like that. It recognizes that, like, our emotions are a valid part of the decision-making process.
Exactly. Then there's the green hat, which is all about creativity and innovative thinking.
Brainstorming new ideas, thinking outside the box, exploring all the possibilities.
Exactly. And finally, the blue hat is about process control. It's about, like, overseeing the whole thinking process,
Okay.
making sure all the perspectives are considered.
So it's like the conductor of an orchestra.
Yeah.
Making sure all the instruments are playing in harmony.
Yes.
And the music's flowing smoothly.
That's a great analogy. Kwik emphasizes that, like, the 6 thinking hats is a great method for, like, groups, too.
Oh, okay.
It helps teams work together more effectively, consider a wider range of ideas, and make, more informed decisions.
It's like a framework for having more productive, like, discussions and brainstorming sessions.
Exactly. And from there, Kwik introduces another really powerful concept, second-order thinking.
Second-order thinking. What's that all about?
Okay, so it's about thinking beyond, like, the immediate consequences of your actions.
Yeah.
And considering the ripple effects that might happen, down the line. It's thinking long-term.
So it's not just about making a decision based on what feels good right now, but thinking about how it might play out days, weeks, even years from now.
Exactly. Kwik suggests, like, asking yourself, and then what? Repeatedly, as you're thinking about a decision.
Oh, and then what? Okay, that's a good question to ask yourself.
Right.
It helps you see, like, the bigger picture
Yeah.
and make choices that are, like, aligned with your long-term goals.
Exactly. And Kwik's final concept in this section is exponential thinking.
Exponential thinking. That sounds pretty intense.
It is. It's about challenging that linear, step-by-step way of thinking and embracing the possibility of, like, breakthroughs and massive change.
So instead of just trying to, like, improve things incrementally, you're looking for ways to create, like, huge leaps forward.
Exactly. Kwik talks about people like, Thomas Edison, the Wright brothers, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk. They're all, like, examples of exponential thinkers.
Okay.
They weren't afraid to challenge the status quo and envision a future that was, like, radically different from the present.
So it's about having that, like, bold, ambitious vision and not being limited by what's currently possible.
Exactly. And Kwik encourages us to cultivate that exponential mindset in our own lives, whether we're, brainstorming new ideas, starting a business, or just trying to, like, solve a problem in a creative way.
I love this. It's like Kwik is giving us permission to, like, dream bigger.
He is.
And think outside the box.
He totally is. And in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to look at how to take all these amazing methods and, like, actually apply them in our lives.
Okay, I'm ready for that. I'm feeling energized
Good.
and motivated to start, like, putting these techniques into practice.
Awesome. Get ready to unlock your limitless potential. We'll be back soon to, like, wrap up this deep dive and give you a roadmap for, creating your own personalized learning plan.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deck dive into Limitless.
Ready to unlock your full potential.
Absolutely. We've covered so much ground, right? Speed reading, memory palaces, thinking hats, exponential thinking, like mind-blowing. But now it's like, okay, how do we actually make these techniques work for us?
Right. Like, how do we take all this amazing stuff and actually apply it in our lives?
Yeah.
And Kwik provides a framework for doing just that. He starts by encouraging you to understand, like, your own unique learning style.
Oh, okay, learning styles.
Yeah. He actually includes a self-assessment in the book
Okay.
to help you determine if you're, like, a visual learner,
Okay.
an auditory learner,
Mhm.
or a kinesthetic learner.
So that's important.
Yeah.
Knowing your learning style.
It's super important. Kwik says it's like having a cheat code for your brain. Like, if you know your dominant learning style, you can choose the techniques that are most likely to, like, resonate with you.
Okay, so like give me an example.
Okay, so say you're a visual learner.
Hmm.
You might really benefit from techniques that use imagery, like mind mapping or the memory palace.
Right, right. Visuals for visual learners. Makes sense.
Exactly. And, like, if you're an auditory learner, you might find that reciting information aloud or having discussions about the material helps you solidify your learning.
Okay, so different strokes for different folks.
Right. It's about finding what works best for you. And Kwik actually encourages us to be, like, flexible. It's not about sticking to just one learning style. It's about understanding your strengths and, like, adapting the techniques accordingly.
So first step, take that self-assessment.
Yes.
Figure out your dominant learning style. Then what?
Then Kwik really emphasizes the importance of setting clear goals.
So goals. Okay.
It's not enough to just say, like, I want to learn more, you know?
Right.
He wants you to get specific. Like, what do you want to achieve?
Okay.
And why does it matter to you?
So it's about like having a clear destination in mind, right?
Yeah.
A reason to embark on this like learning journey. It's like having a map before you set off on an adventure.
Exactly. And he reminds us that goals should be challenging, but also achievable.
Right. You don't want to set yourself up for failure.
Exactly. And he encourages us to break down those big, daunting goals into smaller, more manageable steps.
Makes sense. It's like climbing a mountain. You don't just teleport to the top. You take it one step at a time.
Right. And those small wins along the way can really keep you motivated.
Totally. What about actually like writing down your goals? Does he talk about that?
He does. He suggests that we write down our goals, making them, like, tangible and visible.
Okay.
It's like making a contract with yourself, you know?
Yeah, a commitment to follow through. I like that.
Mm-hmm. And he even suggests, like, sharing your goals with other people, creating a sense of accountability and support.
It's amazing how much more motivated you can feel when you have people like cheering you on and holding you accountable.
Right.
Okay, so we've got learning styles, we've got goals. What else? How do we actually create this like learning plan?
Well, Kwik, he provides a framework for creating, like, a personalized learning plan based on your learning style, your goals, and, like, the resources you have available.
So it's like creating like a custom tailored curriculum
Exactly.
for your brain.
Exactly. And he emphasizes that, like, this plan should be flexible.
Okay.
It's not set in stone, you know.
Yeah.
As you learn and grow, you might discover new techniques that work better for you, or your goals might even shift.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's all about being adaptable
Yeah.
and, like, finding what works best for you at each stage of your journey.
So it's like having a roadmap.
Yeah.
But you're allowed to like make detours and explore new paths along the way.
That's a great way to put it. And most importantly, I think Kwik reminds us that, like, learning is not a destination. It's a lifelong adventure.
So it's not about like reaching some arbitrary endpoint,
No,
but about cultivating like a love of learning, a thirst for knowledge.
exactly. And that's what Jim Kwik's Limitless is all about. Empowering you to become a lifelong learner, unlock your full potential, and live, you know, a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
Wow, this has been such an incredible deep dive. We've explored like so many powerful techniques for upgrading our brains, and we've learned like how to personalize those techniques to create a learning plan that truly works for us.
Right. And as Kwik says, the most important tool is our mindset, like a belief in our ability to learn, grow, and achieve anything we set our minds to.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a challenge. What if discovering your dominant learning style is the key to unlocking your full potential? We encourage you to explore Kiswick's book, take that self-assessment, and see what you discover about yourself.
And remember, learning is a journey, not a destination.
Embrace the challenge, enjoy the process, and never stop exploring the limitless possibilities of your incredible brain. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of Limitless.
We hope you've gained, valuable insights and practical tools to enhance your learning and, of course, unlock your full potential. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.